everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and it's my favourite time of the week for 3 reasons. Reason number 1, it's Wrestlers of the Week. Reason number 2, it's the post-Royal Rumble edition of Wrestlers of the Week. And reason the 3rd, don't know if you've heard, but it's snowing a lot in Newcastle, so it's the return of the bloody snow globe. Last year, Kenny Omega won the snow globe, and then apparently someone reminded me on Twitter or in the comments section that Kenny Omega won the snow globe, and then I said that whoever beat him would take the globe from him, and then Cody beat him, but I just lost track of the snow globe. So I'm bringing it back, Snow Globe 2.0. Who's going to win it this time? You'll find out later on, you cheeky devils. But before that, let's take a look at all of my honourable mentions. A decent number of honourable mentions to talk about. The War Raiders, for example, won the NXT Tag Team Championship at TakeOver Phoenix with that excellent Viking entrance as well. I was especially impressed with Hansen. Out of the two, I usually prefer Raymond Rowe, but Hansen, I think, was probably the star of the match in that one. Akira Tozawa and Hideo Itami had a good match on 205 Live, or should I say Kenta, because obviously he's now left WWE and has reverted back to his old name. Where will he crop up next? Like, probably Noah, but maybe he'll appear somewhere else, who knows. I hope so, because I want to see him everywhere that I can do. Bianca Belair had a really good showing against Shayna Baszler, despite many people before the match being like, is she ready for this level or not? Yeah, she absolutely is, she proved it. Kushida, who had his last match for New Japan Pro Wrestling, a singles match, non-title, against Hiroshi Tanahashi. He lost, as is tradition, you know, putting over Tanahashi, and it was a slow and technical match, but still a good one, just not quite enough to get him on Wrestlers of the Week, unfortunately. And Ronda Rousey as well. I'll explain. So Ronda had a good match at the Royal Rumble. I enjoyed her match against Sasha Banks, but at the same time, on Raw, she cut that promo where she just reminded us all that she's actually not too experienced in wrestling. She's a natural in the ring, she's incredible, but when it comes to kind of promo, sometimes she can get a little bit phased. And it was a bit strange because the crowd certainly didn't help her, to be fair. They were trying to throw her off. And they did throw her off, and then they had to send out Bayley early to, like, rescue the segment. But then she had a good match with Bayley, and then she had that excellent showdown with Becky Lynch. So, you know, I nearly put her on, you know, Wrestlers of the Week low down just because she had a good match and a good promo, but it was all offset by the bad promo. It was a mixed week of action for Ronda Rousey. Now on to number 10, gaining 1 point this week, and it's a former Wrestler of the Week in 2019 already, so he's moving up beyond the 10-point mark. It's Finny Balor. Now the cheeky wee handsome Irishman with his abs and the imprint of his, you know, his dick that you can see through his I wish that he had a logo on the front of his pants or something, but regardless, Finn Balor had a really good match at the Royal Rumble. Now, why is he so low on the list? Why is he only getting 1 point? It's because I think the loss to Brock Lesnar kind of sent him back to square one a little bit. We were all believing in Finn. We thought, you know, even if he couldn't do it, he could really push Lesnar close. And then for me, the finish was just quite abrupt. And then also for me, there was no reason for Lesnar to beat down Balor again after the match. It was as if it was like serving to remind us that Finn isn't really on Lesnar's level, and I don't think that was the message they should have tried to convey through their booking. At the same time though, during portions of the match where he was on top, Balor did a really good job of convincing everybody that he could do the unthinkable, and he could actually take the Universal title from Brock Lesnar. He was attacking him right in the diverticulitis, which was a good bit of tactics there from Finn, and also he did the 3 dives over the top rope and that sort of thing, coup de grace. Everything looked really good and sharp and intense from Balor, and that's when he's at his best, you know. I think maybe he's one of those guys who was more tailor-made for NXT than the main roster. We like to see him in these entertaining, fast-paced, hard-hitting matches, whereas on Raw, you know, you've got to be in your fair share of tag matches, multi-man matches, little segments where you don't really do much, and I think Finn's more suited to being like an all-action kind of guy. Also, at some point, I really want him to turn heel again, because when he was Prince Devitt, he was genuinely one of the best heels in the business. Number 9, Sasha Banks. Now, Sasha Banks, obviously, like Finn Balor, lost her match against Ronda Rousey, but at the same time, this is one of my favourite Sasha Banks matches I can remember seeing in a long time. That's not necessarily her fault. That's more the fault of, I guess, the booking. She's been put into spots where she can't really shine. But this was a match where she certainly could have a chance to shine, and she did so as well. This was a really good performance from Sasha. It reminded me of what she used to be like back in the day when she was an out-and-out heel. And I'm not suggesting she's massively, like, fully heel or anything. She's a bit of a tweener right now. But little things like, for example, when a bit of her gear fell off, and then she used it to, like, choke Ronda Rousey later on. That was genius. That's the sort of little things that you realise that proper, true pro wrestlers can do, just off the fly. Unless it was planned, in which case they did a great job of making it look improvised at the very least. So yeah, really good match from Sasha and Ronda. One of Ronda's best matches too, I think, up there with the one against Charlotte, which ended in the DQ, of course. Ronda did pick up the victory by pinfall as well, and I legitimately thought Sasha was hurt as well. She sold that final twisting, you know, Samoan drop kind of suplex thing like absolute death. She was laid out there. I was like, oh no, she's concussed. I think she seemed to be fine. And the aftermath as well, the whole character-based stuff where she, you know, respected Ronda and accepted her compliments and then went away and then came back and went, 4 horsewomen. I was like, yes, go on. Because back in the, like originally, before Becky Lynch captured my heart and ran away with it or whatever, that sounds so stupid. That is so schoolyard. But back before Becky Lynch was my favourite horsewoman, Sasha Banks was my favourite one. She was my original favourite horsewoman because I thought she was the best one in NXT. Then she left and then my favourite became Bayley. Now my favourite's obviously Becky. Just waiting for Charlotte to come around as well because every one of them so far has been my favourite one. It's just you letting the side down, Charlotte. Charlotte's like the most successful one and I'm saying like, no, you've not really done enough yet, mate. But no, a great week for Sasha Banks. 2 points. She is now on the board for Wrestlers of the Week 2019. And moving on to number 8, picking up 3 points. The winner of the Men's Royal Rumble, the Architect, and my boy, Seth Rollins. Now, this wasn't a brilliant Rumble match or anything. It wasn't as good as last year's when Nakamura won. But at the same time, it was still a really good and significant performance from Seth Rollins. He came in at number 10. He had a long way to go, a lot of people to run through before he got to the final 4 even. And then when he got down to the final 4, there was a real tension. And Rollins did a really good job because in the build-up to the match, the week or so before, everyone seemed pretty convinced that either Seth or Drew was going to win. And then from the moment that Dolph Ziggler eliminated Drew McIntyre with that super kick, it seemed pretty nailed on that Seth was going to win. But at the same time, they did an excellent job of at least making you think twice. At least making you think, ooh, maybe they'll go for Strowman. And Seth did a great job as well personally, like on his own, like such as teasing little eliminations of himself. He'd be hanging onto the ropes and stuff. Bit of a Shawn Michaels style performance in that way, and it was great. He did a good job of selling the effects of the match as if he was getting more and more tired. I don't think he was actually tired because he's literally a marathon. We've seen him wrestle for like an hour straight and he's been fine, but he pretended he was tired, and that's the art of pro wrestling, isn't it? Also really enjoyed the finish of the Rumble when Rollins did the curb stomp on Strowman on the apron and mashed his big melon head into the apron, and Strowman fell to the outside, defeated, and Rollins was... You can tell that I really wanted Rollins to beat Strowman here, actually. I did not want to see Strowman versus Lesnar again. And magnificently, we're not. We're going to see Rollins versus Lesnar, which is fresh, exciting. I remember their match at the 2015 Rumble with Cena, the triple threat. That was excellent. They've definitely got a chemistry between them. But at the same time, on Raw, Rollins got a little bit buried, didn't he? I think that held him back from being a bit higher on this week's rankings. Lesnar hit him with about 6 F5s, and I'm not sure I agree with Rollins being all brave and being like, is that all you got? Because that's 6 F5s. Come on, you don't want to bury Brock Lesnar. No, I'm sure it was in his instructions to like still be conscious and everything, but I just don't know. I don't know if that's the right thing to do. At the same time, though, it does build intensity for the eventual match at WrestleMania, a match I cannot wait to see. Could one of those two guys scoop the double points when it gets to WrestleMania week on Wrestlers of the Week? That's going to be... Oh, I cannot wait. Number 7, I've just mentioned him, the man that Rollins will face at WrestleMania 35, unless he loses to, like, Apollo Crews or something in the meantime. It's Brock Lesnar. Now, I'm not the only person to say this, but I think it's true. Brock Lesnar is one of the best sellers in all of wrestling. It's largely because he doesn't normally sell, so when he does sell, it's really, really effective. And in this match against Balor at the Royal Rumble, that was the perfect example. When he first got rammed into the pointy corner of the announce table and he was like wheezing and going red and coughing, I was just like, this is amazing. Like, he might actually lose because of the whole diverticulitis thing. I don't think they ever really mentioned it in the build-up. They've never really used it in many of Lesnar's. I guess you could argue that when Goldberg speared him, it was implied that it hurt him. But it's never been this obvious that someone's going after his very real medical history. It was very unique. Lesnar's matches have a certain, when he's not being lazy, Lesnar's matches have a certain snap and a certain intensity that just no one else can really bring to the table, and it's always impressive, and it's such a little thing, but when he hoists a far lighter man, aka nearly everybody he faces, into the F5 and just stands up as if there's nothing on his shoulders, that is so captivating and intense. It brings you into the match. And there were loads of little moments like this in the Balor match. Yes, it went really short, but actually, I don't think I'd have liked to see it go much longer. Maybe just to help put Finn over a little bit more. But I thought the finish was inventive, the match length helped keep it concise and like jam-packed with action. And generally, I'm very much looking forward to Lesnar versus Rollins. Unless Apollo Crews, of course, does beat him, in which case, come on Apollo, mate. Number 6, the Empress of Tomorrow. It's only bloody Asuka. What was I going for there? Asuka's match with Becky Lynch opened the main portion of the Royal Rumble, and I think, pound for pound, like from start to finish, this was probably my favourite match of the whole show. It felt intense and dangerous and competitive and real. And there were loads of little cool moments. I enjoyed all the trash talk towards the start, even if Asuka's was in Japanese and I couldn't understand it. I enjoyed the spot off the apron, even though it nearly killed both of them, but it looked cool and it looked dangerous and they were both fine, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. I enjoyed the exchange of submissions towards the end and how they used each other's submissions as well. That was really good. And I even enjoyed the finish, you know. Yes, there's an argument to be made that suggests that Becky, the hottest babyface in the company right now, should not be tapping out clean no matter what. Cena never tapped out clean. It's a bit of a sore point for many people, and I do see that. At the same time, though, I kind of understand it because Asuka used a modification of her submission that we've just never seen before, and that, or at least personally I haven't seen before, and I don't think a WWE audience has seen before. And that means that, you know, it realistically could have taken Becky by surprise, and she may have just had to tap out. Also, with what, you know, happened later on at the event, it's kind of not as bad as it first seemed, so that's pretty good too. And I just thought, yes, it's great to see Asuka back on form as like one of the best pure workers in the WWE, certainly on the main roster. And I'm just hoping that we get somewhere near to what she was as NXT Women's Champion with this SmackDown Women's Championship reign. No idea who she's going to face at WrestleMania. I asked Twitter this the other day, and the responses ranged from like, Nikki Cross was one that a lot of people said, Ember Moon, but of course she's currently injured, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Charlotte. A lot of people don't think Charlotte will get inserted into the Raw Women's match. They think it'll be the SmackDown Women's title match that she gets put into. Various different things could play out, but I think regardless, as long as Asuka's paired with somebody that she can have at least a decent match with, once they're on the WrestleMania stage, they'll ramp things up and she will, hopefully, turn in a wonderful performance. Number 5, and still NXT champion, Tommaso Ciampa. Is it time, right? Just consider this for a second. Is it time to start considering Ciampa the best NXT champion ever? I looked at the list of the champions, and an argument can be made for Balor, certainly. An argument can be made for Neville, or Adrian Neville, as he was then known, or Pac, as he's known now, the bastard. But I can't think of too many more candidates that have really surpassed what Ciampa's done in his time with the gold. His brilliant reign continued with an excellent win over Alistair Black at NXT TakeOver Phoenix. It was a really cool match. There were multiple finishes hit by Ciampa, the fairy tale ending, the big angel's wings sort of slam thing. But also, I really enjoyed his leg work throughout the match. I don't want to start sounding like one of those boring people online who's like, the limb work in this match was really good, Brian. Yeah, Dave, they're not boring. I listen to them all the time. I feel awful. But no, the legwork was excellent, and it played into the ending of the match too, and at various points in between. So that was really cool to see. Also, I just enjoyed Ciampa going for the exposed floor again on the outside, echoing what Gargano had done earlier in the night. And then, once Ciampa had retained, of course, he and Gargano stood like that at the top of the ramp, one of the great NXT TakeOver closing moments. And there've been a few, usually involving Tommaso Ciampa. Number 4, the man he defeated to keep a hold of that NXT Championship, Alistair Black. Honestly, when Alistair Black's on form, he is one of the best, I think he's one of the best wrestlers in the world when he's on his game. We've seen it in matches against the likes of Velveteen Dream, that excellent match that he had, or the match against Ciampa on NXT TV. When he's firing on all cylinders and he's hitting moves cleanly and crisply, I don't think there's many more wrestlers that I prefer to watch in the world than Alistair Black. I think he's absolutely fantastic when he's on his game, which is scarily becoming more often than not, actually. I think Alistair Black is in a very unique position in that he's really popular on NXT, but is tailor-made for the main roster. And not only did he have that wonderful match with Ciampa, where he sold the leg to perfection, but also, I think for my money, he had the best surprise entrance of anybody in the Rumble this year. Either Rumble, I think. Not counting, obviously, Becky Lynch. Come on, let's not be silly. Yeah, when Alistair Black was in that Rumble, you could just see that he fit in immediately on the main roster, especially when he wiped out Dean Ambrose with that spinning, I think it was a spinning knee strike or maybe a kick, whatever it was. It reminded Dean Ambrose that he was Jon Moxley, and he tumbled not only out of the ring, but out of the WWE as well. That was a pre-written joke, I'll admit that one. Honestly, and this sounds a little bit stupid, but I really hope that Alistair Black doesn't continue on in NXT until WrestleMania. I'd rather see him on the main roster now, although we might have missed our chance really, because it would have been more likely on Monday. But I hope he gets called up now and basically gets on the WrestleMania card. I want to see Alistair Black have a WrestleMania match. Do I think it'll happen? Probably not, by the fact that he didn't get called up after the Rumble. I think he's probably going to stick around until Mania, but at least then, Raw after Mania or SmackDown, he should come out and just take someone's head off. That's really what I want to see. Number 3, and one of my favourite wrestlers in the world, and the MVP of NXT in my opinion, and a man that we should all refer to correctly as Big Match John, it's Johnny Gargano. Yeah, the name's correct, because nobody consistently turns in big performances more in the wrestling world, really, other than Johnny Gargano. You could say a few candidates, you could say like Okada and Omega and stuff, but especially in the West, I can't think of anyone quite on the same level of bringing an epic feel to his matches as Johnny Gargano. Whether it's as a babyface, whether it's as a heel, or whether it's as this conflicted, weird situation he's got going on right now, it's absolutely superb. Gargano had just a huge weekend. He obviously had this wonderful match against Ricochet in which he really sold the frustration of not being able to put Ricochet away, not being better than him in the ring, so he had to go for the exposed floor on the outside. Thought twice when the fans were all telling him not to, got back in the ring, went for it again, and instead of hitting the DDT, he hit a bloody brainbuster, really brutalising Ricochet en route to victory, and he's the new NXT North American Champion. This was a match of the year contendant. This was a match of the year contendant in my opinion. Honestly, one of my favourite matches I've seen all year. The only one up there with it in my mind is maybe Omega versus Tanahashi, the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, and I can't really pick between the two. Honestly, even though I saw the New Japan one live, I may have to shade it towards the NXT match. I just think that might have been a little bit better. I'm probably in the minority when I'm saying that. But I genuinely thought this match was absolutely superb, 5 stars in my opinion. But also, he then came out in the Royal Rumble, and I was excited to see him. Didn't think his performance in the Rumble was quite as good as Alistair Black's, but I preferred Gargano's match to Black's match, so that's why Gargano is just a little spot higher on Wrestlers of the Week. Moving on to number 2, and a man I thought would be Wrestler of the Week for so long, and I tossed and turned in my mind over what to do, and you'll see when we get to number 1, but number 2 is the former NXT North American Champion, Ricochet. Ricochet is like the most perfect wrestler in the world. He's the most graceful in terms of movement, I want to say. He's so smooth when he's just doing ridiculous things and flying through the air. And honestly, I've seen quite a lot of excellent Ricochet matches, both in person with WCPW and just in various promotions as well. New Japan, NXT now, various places he's had excellent matches, PWG. He's great, consistently, and has been for the past few years. Lucha Underground as well, that was the one I was thinking of, but that was a different person. That was Prince Puma. But this may be my favourite Ricochet match. I'm not saying that everyone should think it's the best one because there's so many to choose from, but just the storyline mixed with the exciting moves and the action and the pacing, this may be my favourite Ricochet performance ever. He was flawless in this match. I'm thinking especially of the moment where Gargano dove through the ropes with a suicide dive and Ricochet just turned slightly and just caught him on his shoulders perfectly, as if like by magnets, and then Gargano like jumped up on his shoulders and did the reverse Rana, which by the way, because wrestling's not real, Ricochet had to do a bloody backflip onto his head immediately after catching a man on his shoulders. It's absolutely crazy, and he shouldn't be allowed to get away with moves like that. Also, when Gargano was on the outside and hid behind the corner, and Ricochet went, all right then pal, and jumped over the corner to the outside. It was insane. And I'm forgetting as well the bit where Gargano went for the Frankensteiner or the head scissors off the corner, and Ricochet just stood up out of it, landed on his feet, and just walked off and went, whatever. How can you be that cool? It's unfair. What a dick. So yes, he may have lost his title, but hopefully Ricochet can move on to bigger and better things down the line. I don't think it's his time for the main roster yet. And I'm kind of wary for his time on the main roster because we've seen excellent high flyers like Neville kind of get lost in the shuffle, but hopefully in the case of Ricochet, he can really transcend that and become something great. But for now, I'm more than happy with him on NXT. 9 points for you. And number 1, now I almost put Ricochet in at this spot, and instead I've gone for the person that most of you probably know that I've put at number 1. Because, oh, it's a joke. But honestly, wrestling's not just about great matches. Great matches are great, and they happen every week, and they're brilliant. But sometimes there are moments that are just rarer than that. And this weekend, we certainly saw one of those. Number 1 is obviously Becky Lynch. So Becky Lynch is my Wrestler of the Week, and it's mainly because, well, first of all, which helps, she had a great match against Asuka, my favourite match of the main card, and my favourite performance from back to front in that, in that pay-per-view. But at the same time, when she entered the Rumble and when she took Lana's place and the crowd were going like wild for her, and then when she injured her leg, and then Charlotte was mercilessly targeting the leg. Charlotte should be an honourable mention, by the way. I forgot to mention, but she was an excellent heel in that scenario. And then Becky came back and won, and the place went ballistic. That is something truly rare in wrestling, something truly throwback. I know that Becky gets compared to Steve Austin a lot, and I know that it might be a little bit far-fetched because the business was way hotter back then, and Austin was the most popular wrestling star like ever, on maybe Hulk Hogan, but Austin had a different intensity. But Becky's the closest thing to that in the modern age, and it's just amazing to see. That Rumble was booked so well, I just can't stop thinking about how great WrestleMania is going to be, regardless of whether it's Becky versus Ronda or whether Charlotte does get involved. If I had to put money on it, I'd say that Charlotte's probably going to get involved, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I'd personally rather see the singles match, but Charlotte's not going to take away from the quality of the match, really. It's only going to add another element for Becky to overcome, because God, if they don't book her to win that WrestleMania main event, that's going to be hell on, to be honest. They'll be rioting in the streets of my bedroom. So when this happened, in my mind I was like, well, Ricochet and Becky are probably even. I don't know which one to make rest of the week. And then Raw came along, and Becky did that promo, and she just cut that savage promo on Ronda Rousey, and her presence and her poise now is just something else completely. She has such an aura about her that no other wrestlers really have at the moment. Some wrestlers will gain it once or twice in their career, and right now that person is Becky Lynch. When she made her entrance, she's just walking slowly. She knows what to do. She's in complete control. Flashes the 4 horsewomen sign at Bayley. Bayley does it back, and I'm just thinking, oh man, she's on fire right now. She's literally straight fire. It's just quite something to behold. Wait, stop the video for a second. I realised that I forgot that what I said in the intro was whoever won this week's Wrestlers of the Week would also win the snow globe. So here, I've got it here. Here is the snow globe. Lovely. Well done. Enjoy that. So yes, Becky Lynch is my Wrestler of the Week, and it's not, if it weren't for that match with Asuka, she probably wouldn't be number one, but that combined with the Rumble booking, and then all of that combined with the promo on Raw, it was just a no-brainer in the end. Ricochet, I still kind of regret not making Wrestler of the Week because I loved his performance, but it ultimately had to be Becky. So without any further ado, let's take a look at the big old league table. We have a new outright leader as Johnny Gargano leapfrogs Andrade and Finn Balor, as well as Becky Lynch, who's up to second as well. If we move a little bit further down, we see Hideo Itami there. Where's he going to crop up next? Maybe back in Noah? That seems to be the most likely option. Ricochet is up to 9 points after his big performance on Saturday. And as we move a little bit further down as well, we see a man who could be gaining even more points in the near future, Darby Allin, who of course has a match with Adam Cole, baby, in the near future in Evolve. Lots of other names there, but really at this stage of the year, anyone could jump onto the list and really make a storm for that number one place. So we'll just have to see what happens next. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching Wrestlers of the Week. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to, at Jack the Jobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. Check out our Patreon as well, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, of course, if you haven't done so already, to hit subscribe and to join us.